After my operation, my fiancée believed I was still sedated when she confided in her friend that the surgeon advised against any strenuous lifting for 2 months, and she'd be tied down looking after me instead of spending time with James. Her friend wondered why not just walk away. She explained, his folks are including me in their estate documents soon. I came around fast, contacted my parents that evening, and arranged for her belongings to be transferred to a storage facility. It's been 3 days now, and she's still lingering in the hospital's parking area. For days back, my existence was entirely altered. For days back, I, a 37-year-old man, was betrothed to Rachel, 32F, eagerly organizing our nuptials planned for the following spring. 4 days ago, I was convinced I had found my lifelong partner. It's astonishing how swiftly circumstances shift when someone's true colors emerge. Right? I suppose I ought to begin from the start. I've dealt with persistent back issues for ages, including slip discs, nerve pain, and all that comes with it. Those injuries from my university sports days finally took their toll. After trying every conservative treatment available, my specialist suggested a spinal merger procedure. Not the ideal way to pass the warm season, but the prospect of reduced discomfort made it worthwhile. Rachel and I had been a couple for 4 years, promised to each other for one. She always appeared encouraging about my medical challenges, at least on the surface. She'd massage my back during bad episodes, transport me to medical visits when the medications impaired my driving ability, and never grumbled about our sometimes restricted outings. At least that's what I assumed. The day of the procedure came. Rachel transported me to the medical center at 5:30 in the morning, clasped my hand during preparations, and was the final person I viewed before the sedatives took effect. Routine operation, they informed me, lasting roughly 4 hours. I'd remain in the post-op area for a bit, then shift to a standard ward for monitoring through the night. The operation proceeded smoothly. The doctors subsequently mentioned they discovered more severe issues than the scans indicated, but they managed to fix it all. I was fortunate, he noted. The process concluded around midday, and I was transferred to the post-op unit. This is where things become intriguing. I've always had an unusual response to sedatives. Whereas most individuals require hours to completely rouse, I usually regain awareness fairly promptly but stay drowsy and motionless. The healthcare team is often amazed by my early alertness post-procedure, even as I'm still bodily relaxed. This odd trait had never been especially significant until this moment. I grew conscious of my environment in the post-op room perhaps 30 to 45 minutes following the surgery. Not entirely sharp, but aware enough to notice sounds and some activity nearby. My eyelids remained shut, respiration steady and even. I could detect caregivers attending to others, the tones of equipment, the usual post-op ambience. Then I recognized Rachel's tone. She must have been permitted entry once I stabilized. I sensed her near my bedside, though I lacked the strength to lift my lids yet. He's not awake yet, she stated, likely to a caregiver. That's typical, came the response. The physician will visit soon to discuss the operation with you. He performed excellently. I attempted to indicate my wakefulness, but my physique wasn't responding. Before another try, I caught a different tone. Feminine, recognizable. It seemed like Rachel's pal Allie. How did everything turn out? Allie inquired. Okay, I suppose. The doctor hasn't stopped by yet, Rachel answered. Her tone seemed irritated, restless. It lacked the worried inflection I'd anticipated. They stepped a bit away from my area but stayed within earshot. Lord, I'm worn out already, Rachel went on. The physician mentioned no heavy exertion for 8 weeks. I'll be trapped tending to him when I could be with James. James. The name struck like a splash of freezing liquid. James who? My mind, still hazy from the drugs, fought to identify the individual. I wasn't aware of any James in our social group. Why not just end it? Allie questioned, her voice hushed but clear. I mean, you're not tied by marriage yet. There was a brief silence. I could nearly envision Rachel scanning the area to confirm privacy. His parents are incorporating me into their inheritance plans next month. You know how wealthy they are. The elderly man's condition isn't strong, likely why they're revising things. I simply need to endure a bit more. My parents. My 65-year-old dad who'd established a thriving building firm from scratch. My mom who'd instructed young students for 3 decades prior to retirement. The individuals who'd embraced Rachel into our clan with warmth. The ones who'd demanded to fund our ceremony because they were thrilled I'd at last discovered my match. That's harsh, Ratch. Even for your standards, Allie remarked, though she appeared more admiring than critical. The sensible Rachel countered. Moreover, it's not as if I haven't deserved it. 4 years enduring his chats about construction ventures and sports, acting cordial with his dull relatives, and now I must act as caregiver for 2 months. What about James? He's becoming restless, you realize. James will hold off if he understands the situation. Listen, once all is official and Richard Sr. passes on, I'll be secure. James can enjoy himself presently, but he grasps the circumstances. Richard Sr. passes on. My dad. They discussed my father's demise as if it were a strategy, something to anticipate. And what if Mike stirs and overhears this? Allie probed. Rachel chuckled. Not the affectionate chuckle I'd adored. Something icier, more cutting. Come on. They fill him with so many substances he'll be fortunate to recall his identity today. Additionally, he relies on me utterly. It's nearly too straightforward. The dialogue then moved to arrangements for meals and if Allie could provide an alibi for Rachel seeing James the next day. I ceased paying attention to their phrases, my thoughts spinning despite the medications. I'd prefer to claim I challenged her immediately, that I rose in my medical bed, directed an accusatory gesture, and revealed her deceit to all in the post-op space. That would create a superior tale, correct? But that's not what occurred. Rather, I chose instantly to continue feigning unconsciousness, to collect additional details, to withhold my knowledge until I comprehended the full situation. Soon, a caregiver approached to monitor my signs, and I roused gradually, sluggishly, portraying the sedated individual they anticipated. Rachel was promptly beside me, the dedicated partner, smoothing strands from my brow, inquiring about my state. The act was impeccable. I'd have accepted it if I hadn't overheard what I did. Hey darling, she murmured. All went splendidly. How do you feel? Fatigued, I muttered, which wasn't fully pretense. I was drained, though more from psychological jolt than the procedure. That's expected, she stated, clasping my palm. I'm here. I'll look after you properly. I nearly burst into laughter. Nearly. The subsequent hours blurred with medical consultations, caregiver assessments, and Rachel's unwavering care. Allie had departed, but vowed to visit the following day with a knowing glance at Rachel. I was relocated to a normal room about 4 p.m., where I learned I'd remain overnight for monitoring. Rachel lingered until around 8 p.m., embodying the committed partner flawlessly. She repositioned my cushions, posed suitable queries during nurse visits, and even dared to phone my parents for an update. Overhearing her gentle tone assure my mother not to fret, that she'd care for your son impeccably, induced actual queasiness. Or perhaps it was the analgesics. When the visiting period concluded, she pressed her lips to my forehead and assured she'd return early to escort me home. I grinned faintly and expressed gratitude. Once the door shut after her, I grabbed my mobile. Initial contact. My parents. I requested they visit the medical center right away, that it was crucial but I was fine bodily. They must have detected the urgency in my voice, as they posed no queries, just affirmed they'd arrive in half an hour. Second contact. My closest companion Eric, who fortunately resided in my complex. I asked him to enter my residence and gather all of Rachel's possessions. Every item. He was puzzled but consented. Third contact. A lock expert. Urgent assistance, higher fees, justified completely. When my parents showed up, appearing anxious and perplexed, I revealed all. The James fellow. The inheritance. The indifferent talk regarding my father's well-being. My mother inhaled sharply. My father's complexion reddened in a way I'd never witnessed. She's been deceiving us entirely, I summed up. And I require your assistance. What ensued was a rush of actions. My father exited to the corridor for communications. My mother positioned herself by my bed, switching between comforting me and suggesting inventive methods for Rachel's comeuppance. For an ex-primary educator, she possesses a remarkably colorful mind. Here's what we orchestrated that evening. 1. Eric and 2 of his workout partners collected every object of Rachel's in my home. Apparel, personal items, literature, devices, all of it. They placed everything into a storage space my father secured. 2. The lock expert reached my residence at 11 p.m. to replace all entry mechanisms. My father contacted his lawyer, indeed at 10 p.m., their leisure partners, to guarantee Rachel's details were eliminated from any papers concerning their asset arrangements. 4. My mother reached out to Rachel's guardians. This was my suggestion, in fact. They merited awareness of their offspring's character. They were appalled and ashamed, which verified my hunch that they were unaware of her plot. 5. I messaged Rachel. Shift in arrangements. My parents will collect me tomorrow. No need to visit the medical center in the AM. Her response was prompt. Don't be foolish, love. I've already scheduled the day free. I'll arrive at 9. I didn't reply. The next morning, my parents appeared at 7:30 a.m. with mobility aid and release forms already handled. The facility personnel, observing my father's resolve and my mother's firm expression, hastened all. By 8:15 a.m., I was in their vehicle, en route to their residence rather than my place. At 9:07 a.m., Rachel phoned. I ignored it. She messaged. I ignored. By 10 a.m., she'd rung 12 times and dispatched 23 progressively desperate notes. Where are you? The caregiver said you'd been released already. Are you all right? Please respond. Your parents aren't replying either. What's happening? Mike, you're frightening me. That final one nearly amused me. I wasn't alarming her. The possible forfeiture of her financial security was alarming her. Around midday, Eric informed me Rachel was at my residence, hammering the entrance. The fresh locks, naturally, rendered her key useless. He observed via his viewer as she attempted contacting me once more, then settled in the corridor, evidently intending to outlast me. She remained there for 6 hours. 6 hours. Finally, the property overseer requested her departure, whereupon she evidently experienced a small collapse, weeping about her betrothed vanishing post-operation and her deep concern. The overseer, informed by my father, remarkable how convincing my dad can be when driven, courteously yet resolutely guided her away. Where did she proceed next? The medical center. Per a caregiver acquaintance who messaged me, Rachel appeared at the post-op section, asserting an error had occurred, that I couldn't have left yet. When presented with the documents, she insisted on knowing my escort. Due to confidentiality rules, they couldn't disclose, so she retreated to the parking zone to linger and linger and linger. It's been 3 days. 3 days. Per facility protection, yes, they're engaged now. She's been passing her time in the parking area, periodically entering to inquire if I've returned, then resuming her watch upon denial. In the meantime, I've been recuperating at my parents' home. The assurance of being amid those who truly value me has likely been as healing as the operation. My spine genuinely feels improved than in years, despite the post-surgical discomfort. Yesterday, my father's legal advisor dispatched Rachel an official document. It detailed precisely what we knew, including dated records of her discussion in the post-op room. A slight exaggeration, but potent. It clarified that any effort to reach me or my kin would lead to protective measures. It notified her that her items were stored in a unit, covered for 1 month, and supplied the entry details. The document ended with a private message from me. Rachel, when you peruse this, you'll have squandered days searching for me incorrectly, just as I squandered years seeking affection with the incorrect individual. The distinction is I've absorbed the teaching. Have you? The access items for the storage are attached to this document's reverse. View them as entry to your fresh existence, one excluding me, my kin, or their inheritance. Kindly convey my greetings to James. Per the legal advisor, the document reached Rachel this morning, while she occupied her vehicle in the medical center's parking. The delivery agent's account stated she unsealed it, reviewed it, and merely rested her forehead on the wheel. She hasn't attempted direct contact since obtaining the document, though she did ring my parents once. They ignored. I'm still digesting it all. The disloyalty, the deliberate aspect of her fraud, the reality that I was mere days from wedding someone who viewed me as merely a pathway to riches. It's dreamlike. But oddly, I'm thankful. Thankful that my peculiar sedative response unveiled her real character before legal ties. Thankful that my parents and companions supported me unquestioningly. Thankful that, unlike Rachel, I recognize my true allies. The journey to bodily healing will be extended. 2 months of restricted movement, rehabilitation sessions, everything. But relative to mending from almost committing life's gravest error, the spinal procedure is simple. Regarding Rachel, last report, she ultimately vacated the medical center's parking. The storage overseer verified she retrieved her possessions. She'll recover, I'm certain. Individuals like Rachel invariably do. Perhaps James will become her subsequent target. Or perhaps, just perhaps, she'll use this chance to contemplate her persona. But I somehow question it. Update. Appreciate the encouragement and suggestions. For those seeking further details. Yes, I'm progressing nicely bodily. The operation succeeded, and although healing is gradual, I'm already noticing reduced neural discomfort than prior. No, I haven't received direct communication from Rachel since the events. Her online presence has become oddly silent, though shared acquaintances say she's claiming I suffered a mental episode post-operation and deserted her. Typical. James, whomever he may be, stays unknown. I lack desire to locate or challenge him. For what I know, he could be another casualty of her schemes. My parents are okay. They're more furious than wounded now. They've also enhanced safeguards in their asset planning, in case Rachel had accomplices. For those recommending legal pursuit, there's truly no basis for litigation. Being opportunistic isn't unlawful, regrettably. Moreover, the complete separation means more to me than financial redress. To the individual inquiring if I'm ready for relationships again, check back in a year. Currently, I'm concentrating on recovery, both bodily and mentally. Occasionally, existence delivers terrible scenarios that prove to be hidden fortunes. This was certainly such an instance. I evaded a disaster, even if it required opening my backbone to achieve it.